breaking news.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. We're beginning with breaking news in our politics lead. It involves one of President Trump's cabinet nominees, now former cabinet nominees. Sources say Andrew Puzder, the president's pick for labor secretary, has just moments ago withdrawn his nomination. He was set to testify before a Senate committee tomorrow morning. CNN senior congressional reporter Manu Raju joins me now. Manu, what happened?
Well, Jake, he didn't have the support. In fact, actually, just moments ago, Sean Spicer confirming this news on the record, telling reporters that he withdrew and that the president is going to have a statement soon. But this after hours, Jake, I am told, of Republicans sending the message to the White House that he did not have the support to get confirmed. A message first conveyed last night, I am told, by a source, as well as this morning. They said that there were 4 firm no votes on the Republican side and up to 11 no votes on the Republican side as well. So that means that Puzder's chances of confirmation were incredibly slim. There were a whole bunch of liabilities piling up from his views on immigration that some folks on the right did not like because they were a little bit too moderate, but also some personal liabilities from the past, including a messy divorce from some 3 decades ago involving domestic abuse allegations that have since been withdrawn. But at that time, his ex-wife appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show to discuss the issues of abuse, and that tape has been viewed by members on the committee considering his nomination, and we actually obtained a copy of that tape as well. Take a look at what we have found.
The most frightening thing was leaving, because once I made that break and once I made it public, and remember, my ex-husband was a public figure. Everyone knew him and knew what he was doing. And once I made that public, he vowed revenge. He said, "I will see you in the gutter. This will never be over. You will pay for this." Was a public figure.
Now, Jake, his ex-wife has actually since regretted going on the show. She actually sent a letter to the committee saying, look, I should not have done that. He's a good man. He's a kind man. He was not abusive. She said that she was manipulated. That's why she leveled those domestic abuse charges. She said she went on the Oprah show only to get a, quote, free trip to Chicago. But nonetheless, these things were bound to get aired at that confirmation hearing, which was scheduled for tomorrow. And it would have been potentially a very ugly confirmation process. And some Republicans just did not want to go through with it, and they wanted Donald Trump to pull back from the nomination. It's one reason why, probably the biggest reason why, Andrew Puzder said that he couldn't go through with it himself, Jake.
And also there's this case of the undocumented immigrant that he had as working at his house, and he only paid taxes on that individual recently. Is there any one issue that the Republicans who were withdrawing their support or expressing ambivalence cited as the reason why they could not support him?
You know, it was a sum total of events. Some were very troubled by that episode, Jake, that you referenced, not hiring an undocumented immigrant, but also just a number of issues continuing to pile up. And the timing is also important here. Republicans had just taken a political hit for backing Betsy DeVos to be education secretary, as well as other controversial picks like Rex Tillerson to run Secretary of State, some nominee that a lot of Republicans did not want to support, but ultimately did. This was a bridge too far, with all the things that are piling up against him, and some conservatives on the outside coming forward, opposing his nomination. One thing, Jake, I'm hearing some finger pointing as well. Republicans are angry that the outside groups, big business groups, did not spend enough money to protect him, so some finger pointing happening as well, Jake.
Well, it is Washington. Manu Raju, thank you so much. More breaking news now. New levels of alarm and concern on Capitol Hill today. Sources telling CNN that during the campaign, investigators in the federal government became alarmed because high-level advisors of candidate Trump were in constant contact with Russians known to U.S. intelligence. CNN Justice correspondent Pamela Brown is covering the story for us. And Pamela, communications between campaign staffs and foreign governments, not necessarily so unusual. What made this different for these investigators?
It was the frequency of these communications, Jake, and the fact that these were high-level advisors within the Trump campaign. And all this is coming as we're learning the security clearance for President Trump's former embattled National Security Advisor Michael Flynn has been suspended pending review of any wrongdoing, according to my colleagues Dana Bash and Jim Sciutto. This is investigators scrutinizing communications Flynn and other Trump aides had with Russians during the campaign.
During his presidential campaign, high-level advisors close to Donald Trump maintained constant communication with Russians known to U.S. intelligence, multiple sources tell CNN. The sources, current and former law enforcement, intelligence, and administration officials, say the frequency of the conversations and proximity to Trump of those involved raised a red flag with U.S. intelligence and law enforcement. The timing, as it became clear to investigators that Russia was seeking to undermine the U.S. elections by hacking emails of Democratic institutions, added to the alarm. And CNN is told that then President-elect Trump and then President Barack Obama were briefed on concerns about the extensive communications in January. Trump in January denying any knowledge of contacts with the Russians.
Did you or anyone in your campaign have any contact with Russia leading up to or during the campaign? Nothing at all.
Yesterday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer denied there was any contact.
Can you still say definitively that nobody on the Trump campaign, not even General Flynn, had any contact with the Russians before the election?
My understanding is that what General Flynn has now expressed is that during the transition period, well, we were very clear that during the transition period, he did speak with the ambassador.
I'm talking about during the campaign.
I don't have any, there's nothing that would conclude me that anything different has changed with respect to that time period.
Officials say the communications were intercepted during routine intelligence collection targeting Russians known to U.S. intelligence. And among those who regularly communicated with Russian nationals, then campaign chairman Paul Manafort and Michael Flynn, who resigned his post as Trump's national security advisor Monday night after news reports about a call with Russia's ambassador regarding U.S. sanctions. Manafort denied the claims in an interview with CNN, calling the allegations, quote, boggling, saying that is 100% not true, at least as far as me. I don't remember talking to any Russian officials ever, certainly during the time we're talking about.
And the FBI and U.S. intelligence agencies continue to try to determine what the motive for the communications was between people close to Trump and Russians. The reason is inconclusive. One concern, though, that investigators have been looking at is whether Trump associates were coordinating with the Russian intelligence operatives over the release of damaging information about the Hillary Clinton campaign. As one source said, if that were the case, then that would certainly escalate things. But again, there is nothing to prove that at this stage in the investigation. Jake?
All right, Pamela Brown, thank you so much. As is the pattern, today the president again tried to write off multiple credibly sourced news reports as fake news. He also attacked his own intelligence agencies, and almost a month into his presidency, he continues to invoke his electoral college victory and attack Democrat Hillary Clinton. CNN's Sarah Murray is live for us at the White House. And Sarah, obviously there are many Americans, including many Republicans on Capitol Hill, who are very concerned about these reports of contact between Trump's officials and his campaign staff and Russians known to U.S. intelligence. Did the president today address the substance of these reports in any way?
Well, Jake, like you said, there are members of Congress, both Republicans and Democrats, who want answers on this, and we are not getting them today from President Trump. We have tried repeatedly to ask him about reports of these communications between his campaign advisors and Russian intelligence. He has not responded, but he did today heap praise on the national security advisor he fired on Monday. Today, President Trump is lashing out about the news that his top advisors were in constant communication with suspected Russian operatives during the presidential campaign. But rather than address the substance of those communications, Trump is lampooning the press, slamming the coverage of ousted National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, the man Trump fired just 2 days ago for misleading the vice president about his conversations with the Russian ambassador.
General Flynn is a wonderful man. I think he's been treated very, very unfairly by the media. Things are being leaked. It's criminal action, criminal act. And it's been going on for a long time, before me. But now it's really going on.
The president airing his grievances after multiple current and former intelligence officials told CNN that communications between Trump advisors and Russian officials could be cause for alarm. Between cries of fake news, the president took to Twitter to say, the Russian connection nonsense is merely an attempt to cover up the many mistakes made in Hillary Clinton's losing campaign. He also took aim yet again at the intelligence community, tweeting, the real scandal here is that classified information is illegally given out by, quote, intelligence like candy. Very un-American. Throughout the day, the president ignored repeated questions about communications between Russians and his campaign advisors. And top administration officials have repeatedly denied any contact.
Did any advisor or anybody in the Trump campaign have any contact with the Russians who were trying to meddle in the election?
Oh, of course not.
Any contact with Russians trying to meddle with the election?
Absolutely not, and I discussed that with the president-elect just last night. Those conversations never happened.
Trump often spoke glowingly about Russia during the presidential campaign. Even in the wake of intelligence findings that Russia attempted to meddle in the U.S. election, Trump predicted U.S. and Russian relations would improve under his presidency.
Russia will have far greater respect for our country when I'm leading it.
He still insisted to reporters in January, though, that there was no contact between his campaign and Russian officials.
Did you or anyone in your campaign have any contact with Russia leading up to or during the campaign? Nothing at all.
And as recently as Tuesday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said he had no reason to revise the record.
Now, even though the White House may not want to elaborate on conversations